Yeah, hi friends. Today I want to discuss a topic which is currently in the news, especially in our local area. That's the fights of Sikh temples around Modesto, Turlock, and around the Central Valley area. This is really very unfortunate thing to discuss, but it usually happens. It have happened in, I think, in other northern part of California, and I think all over United States. I think whenever I discuss this topic, there are different factors which we can think about. There are some factor of like a natural mindset that these people have who are working around or who want to help the management of Gurdwara. I think those are long-term issues we can deal with. And today, but I only want to discuss about the legal cost which is spent from the Gurdwara's funds, which is part of the issue. I think in most of the Gurdwaras. Currently, whenever there is a issue with a temple management, so the person takes that directly to the court, and that thing just keeps drag on for 2 or 3 years, and it takes the Gurdwara management to handle that, all the funds which is included in their general fund or in their other accounts, because they are defending on the behalf of the whole corporation, which is the Gurdwara, which is working under. So that creates a big problem for committee members, and with that process they use that funds, which is normally the standard indemnification. Today I just also want to aware that I am not a legal professional. If you want any legal advice, you should go to a legal professional. I'm just today discussing about my general views about this topic. So I was thinking from many days about this thing, how to reduce the legal cost, like how we can add different processes. So at least when the parties have an issue, they go to court. So at least the Gurdwara's fund or this non-profit uh, Sikh temple funds are not depleted. So I have thought about, as I think in the other industries also there is a now they have used more and more standard process of dispute resolution, which include first the internal mechanism and then mediation and arbitration. Let me start with first with the internal mechanism. I think most of the Gurdwaras committees have the internal committee, like a dispute resolution committee, which comes in place if there is any dispute between a voting member and the committee regarding their functioning, or if they want to enforce any other right. uh, but unfortunately, I think in most of the bylaws of the Sikh temples, this thing, it's not mandatory. Means that person means they they don't have to go there. They can just directly go to court and just enforce their right. I think we should have a mandatory process in place, that at least that person should use that internal process, go through that committee, and if that internal committee doesn't provide a satisfactory response, yeah, sure, means then that person can move forward with the other avenue of dispute resolution, because that at least provide the corporation Sikh temple as a whole an opportunity to resolve that dispute at that particular level, or at least try to come at some kind of a settlement with that particular dispute. And if that dispute is not resolved at that time, so then that person can move to mediation. A mediation, it's a kind of a process where a neutral person is appointed as per satisfaction of both the parties, and that neutral person just talks about that issue and try to bring both the parties to a common ground. uh, so that can be the second step, that the parties can choose a mediator, and so they can discuss that issue and come to a conclusion. But if still, if there is issue left even after mediation, that the party is not satisfied with the decision, because mostly it's there is no decision, but still after the whole process they are not satisfied about the outcome, so then the party should go to the next step, which is should be an arbitration. An arbitration, uh, it's a, like you can call it as a private judge proceedings, because it's very informal, uh, and it just provides you the outcome in very few weeks, depending on your whole dispute. And because with that, even if someone have the dispute and if it's not resolved with the first two process, then they can go to arbitration. And with the arbitration, at least they would have a final decision of the arbitrator. And the arbitrator, it's mostly chosen by both the parties satisfaction. And if the party doesn't come to any conclusion, uh, then it goes to the court, and then they appoint the neutral arbitrator. So mostly these arbitrators are the retired judges, or based on how you have presented the clause, the arbitration clause in your bylaws. So these can be like much more experienced attorneys who have dealt with that particular issue. So with the arbitration, you finally have a decision. So that we should have it a binding arbitration. So that decision would be binding. Yeah, if there are issues, there are other things, but still means that a particular issue would be resolved. And and at least with this whole process which we have discussed about the mediation, it's only take few much hours, sometime maybe 1 or 2 days, but still it's very cost efficient. You're not spending years and year in court and not depleting the non-profit funds. And also with the arbitration, you are not spreading this whole proceedings to years and years or months. So at least with this process, at least you have the reduction of your legal cost, because you would also need the attorneys to assist you in this whole proceedings. But if you have your attorneys spending less time on the dispute resolution, so obviously it will reduce your legal costs. So it is used by like many industries, but I don't know means why we have not thought about it. So this is one of the ways we can reduce the legal cost. I can still understand there are a lot of other issues that can be dealt with the society's awareness about different social issues, and also about their own commitment to just stand up against these fights and all of these other unwanted thing happens. But still my discussion, it's just related to the legal costs. And at last I just want to say that dispute will happen means, yeah, it's unfortunate that it happens in some kind of a uh, in assaultive way, but still, even if it's quite uh, silence in those institutions, still the disputes can come up. So at least we should have this process in place, so that the gurdwaras non-profit funds are not depleted. Because as these places already have scarcity of these resources, so I think we should not spend in only the legal fees at the end, because no one wins if these legal fees are put, like all the funds are depleted, and I think no one wins in this whole process. So we just have to think about that, and I request all the management committees around the country, especially our local area. I have already sent my suggestion to our local temple Modesto series. So I think the management committee can give a due consideration to that suggestion, and just discuss with their legal counsel about this, so how they can reduce the legal cost. So at least we can help in some way within these disputes, which happens, which is unwanted, but still that's part of the life. it will not stop. So we should be prepared about that. So with that, I just like to again thank you that you are listening to my video blog.